Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. It's becoming clearer now what actually happened. If Alec Baldwin was in the middle of a cross draw, as we see in the recently released footage, it's conceivable that given the speed at which he was doing it, the trigger might have pulled inadvertently. It's tough to maintain absolute control over the firearm when it's being fished out as fast as it is. And let's face it, the point of the scene is for the actor to show just how fast and deadly the character Harlan Rust is. And so, the faster the better. Before we get to the rest of the analysis, if you're not a subscriber to this channel and you've been following the Rust incident or you're interested in true crime, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So there has been a lot of speculation over the past few months that Baldwin's finger had to be on the trigger, and certainly in this rehearsal footage it is. In Baldwin's exclusive with ABC News way back in December, he emphasized that he didn't pull the trigger, and I think he also said his finger wasn't even inside the trigger guard. But you can see from this rehearsal how authentic they're trying to make the scene. So why on earth would you practice, why on earth would one practice with one's finger outside the trigger guard as is captured in the animation video? Now take a look at this screen grab from the same recently released video, which seems to show the hammer already cocked even before he performs the cross draw, certainly in this recorded rehearsal. Do you see it now? Obviously, if the hammer was already fully cocked, as it is in the scene, then an as fast as possible cross draw could lead to the trigger being pulled or even pressed on. Baldwin placing an already cocked weapon repeatedly inside his shoulder holster, digging it in, as he does in the footage. We can see this could also have foreseeably led to him shooting himself. That could also have happened in the hip or the leg. One can see how the mechanism of this action of whipping out the already cocked weapon with the finger on the trigger would have meant it would be rigged for a potential discharge, right? When Halyna Hutchins captured this footage, that didn't happen. But if it did, would the projectile have struck anyone in that scenario during this rehearsal? If something did go wrong, if there was a discharge, would it have struck anyone? And was there a live round in the weapon at this point? Now, it's not completely clear, but from the front view, from the camera angle, when the character directs the weapon towards the camera, it appears to be empty. We will only know exactly what happened in terms of the cross draw and what Baldwin and Hutchins were doing exactly from witness statements. I don't know if Joel Souza has gone into a lot of detail on that score in terms of this particular aspect, but if he hasn't, perhaps it's time that he did. Of course, he's not the only witness at close quarters to the incident. Mamie Mitchell, the script supervisor, and Serge Svetnoy, the gaffer, were too. Obviously, both of those individuals have already launched lawsuits in terms of this case. And now I want to play you a clip of Alec Baldwin and the first director, Dave Halls, responding to a deputy's question. They are both sitting outside the church at this point. Alec Baldwin seems to be smoking a cigarette, and Assistant Director Dave Halls is sort of walking around, and he also kind of has a mask on his face, because of for health reasons. And so the interesting thing is the way Dave Halls sort of responds to the officer. It seems to me a little bit gruff. Anyway, watch and listen and decide for yourself what you think of Dave Halls' demeanor and his reaction to the questions that are being asked. Does he sound irritated? Perhaps he's just worried. Perhaps he's just stressed. What do you think?
He'll tell you.
Okay.
He's the one that knows all this. Okay. He's asking how many people were in the room at the time.
How's it going, sir? Deputy LaFleur. How many people were in the room at the time?
Dozens.
6.
6?
Instead of 7. Yeah.
6 or 7? I need a definite answer.
Sure, I don't know.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I got 1 here, the 2 that were injured, that makes 3, and then these 2 gentlemen, 4, 5. So who would be the other 2?
Yeah,
he's got Ross.
People. I can tell you there were more than 6 people.
More than
I'm
6?
the script supervisor. I keep track of the narrative and how many who's where. And I can tell you who's in the room.
Okay.
And where they're
Were you in the room?
pretty much.
I was out the door.
You were at the door? Can I get your ID?
Okay, why don't you come on over to the back of
Supervisor, that's where everybody goes.
Huh?
3-2 to 2-4. I have 3 IDs for 3 questions.
She's really making things tough. It's real. She's really just yelling at everybody and screaming at the producers. Go back to Georgia. Oh, he was inside too.
So I'm not sure what that comment right at the end was about. I'm not quite sure who it was directed to. Baldwin seems to say something about someone screaming at someone else, something about go back to Georgia. But what is quite interesting is the officer asks how many people were in the church at the time. And Baldwin sort of volunteers about a dozen. And Dave Halls then says something like 6 or 7. Now, there's obviously quite a big difference between 6 and a dozen. You know, the one is twice as many as the other. And I think the official number has now been put at somewhere around 14. I think it depends on whether you count the 1 or 2 individuals that were sort of standing at the door. You know, were they basically part of, you know, what was going on? Were they kind of technically inside the church kind of thing? But obviously it has raised eyebrows, the sheer number of people that were in that small structure. And so although Dave Hall sort of seems to brush the question away, just saying, you know, I don't know for sure, Mamie Mitchell, who's standing kind of in the background, she sort of interjects and she says, as script supervisor, she would know the answer to that question because of the, I guess, the details in the script. And she then walks off. But it's quite interesting. There's a little bit of a glimpse at the dynamic between Baldwin and Halls and Mamie Mitchell, who, as I say, walks off kind of into the background. And you may remember that it was established earlier on during the earlier research phase that Mamie Mitchell and I think the assistant director, but there was certainly unhappiness over lunch with, I think, script revisions. And I'm not sure whether she accused him of being argumentative or raising his voice or something, but there did seem to be some enmity on the set. And do you think one gets a little bit of a sense, a little bit of a glimpse of that vibe here in these few seconds of footage? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.